If this cat looks really distorted, it's because it is. This is a project that I'm working on. It's a licensing project that I've done for a company before. I'll put the website up in case you want to have a look. And these are paintings that the company turns into soft sculptures that are life-size cats. And I've done, as I mentioned, several others. And we just decided that we would do a crouching black and white cat. I designed the form and then wrapped fabric around it and created a pattern. And they silk screen onto fabric these life-size cats, sew them back together and sell them that way, and I get a royalty, which has been going on for several years, and it's kind of a nice little offshoot. When I do the painting, I don't get paid for the painting per se, but I get royalties on it for several years. Now this one I'm doing in acrylic, just because he's mostly black. I've done some in oils and some in acrylics, but the black is really flat in acrylic if it's not varnished. And it will scan better, and since this isn't going to be a painting that will sell anyway, it's just going to be used only for this project. The scanning of it is the most important thing. So everything in this cat, because it has to wrap around the form, is going to be distorted. So everything except his face and perhaps the paws in the front. But it's most important that I get good detail in the eyes and face. So I'll show you today the painting of his eyes, because it gives us a chance to show how I work the acrylics anyway. And painting eyes is always something that's interesting to watch. I've been painting in oils for most of the time lately, so acrylics are almost foreign again. With the acrylics, I like to work dark to light for sure. I just like the way the paint looks much better dark to light. So I come in and do my darks first. These cat's eyes, I'm not really using a reference photo because it's, for one thing, it's distorted. For another thing, I don't really need to. So the cat's eyes will be many different colors. Like I said, it's the only part of the painting that's going to be detailed. So that's the part that's going to be important to have it lifelike. So I'm just dipping into combinations of greens and yellows. I'll block in somewhat of a main color here to get me going. Now that I've got the outline, and then I'll just fiddle with it and change, add some variation in it. He's going to have kind of dark blue-green eyes. The colors will blend just a little bit, but mostly they're just put on and drying very quickly because they're thin layers with just a little water in. Cats' pupils are kind of vertical, and they can get to be just little slits, but I find a cat looks more friendly when the pupils are a little bit rounder, and we don't want this guy to look too scary. So I'm keeping the pupils quite round. With acrylics, I rinse my brush often, so I can use the same brush for this whole thing. Just keep rinsing it out in water. A little darker at the top because it's often shaded a bit by the brow of the animal. People and animals are usually a little darker at the top of their eyes. Now it gets to be fun adding more color in here. I've just basically blocked in with really loose kind of blending as I go layers the cat itself, just to know where I was going with it, and I will go back in with several layers and do the detail afterwards. And assuming the light is coming from up here, because that's my highlight, there'll be a little bit of reflected light down here because of the roundness of the surface. And that's getting a little too bright, so I'm going to add some reds to it. Just refining and fiddling back and forth. A lot of the character will come about when I'm doing the brows around the eyes, things like that. This is the white of the eye over here, which is kind of important because the other eye isn't surrounded by black. And it's not going to be completely white. Put a little bit of pink in it. Sort of a muted pink. And because acrylics are so easy to paint over, I may adjust back and forth a little bit as I do the rest of him. I'm going to give him his pink nose just because I got pinks mixed up here. Base that in so at least I've got an idea. Not going for detail yet, just getting some basics in here. Keeping the pupils the same shape. And next I will put the highlight in And usually a highlight's got some reflection of the sky. So I start out along the top of the eye, putting some blue in. And then adding a little more white. And put the highlight in. Sometimes highlights are round and sometimes they're have a shape to them. And normally what I will do is I will put the highlight in and then I'll fiddle around and make it smaller or larger as I need to. This paint is thin and it dries really quickly. So easy to come in with the black and balance them out a little bit more. Now this cat, because it's going to be silk screened and everything gets a little more muted, I'm really pumping the color and the contrast. So I'm using pure white in here, which I may or may not do if it was just a painting. On that note, I think I'll even pump the contrast a bit more in the eye itself. Just to make sure he's highly visible once he's silk screened. These will give him some pretty blue-green eyes. And that's it for that part.